This is the tutorial on creating a handprint field. After completing this tutorial, you should understand how to create a handprint field and use all of its features. And you should understand the rules of creating and laying out handprint fields. In many cases, when you create your form, you are going to give your participant a list of choices to choose from. But there are other times where you may need to gather unique or personal data from the participant, such as a phone number, or their name, or ID number, or something like that. In those cases, it would be best to use a handprint field so that during processing, whatever they write inside the spaces provided is translated into actual typed text. There are a few rules and guidelines that must be followed when creating handprint fields. The first general rule is that a handprint field cannot have more than 28 spaces. Handprint fields are made up of boxes, otherwise known as spaces, and the participant is supposed to put in one character per box. So the rule is you cannot have more than 28 spaces for the different characters. The next guideline to follow when creating handprint fields is that you should provide instructions on your form for your participant explaining how to properly write inside the handprint fields. Instructions should include that only one character should be inside each box, and those characters should be completely contained inside the boxes in printed uppercase. The final guideline is for the benefit of your form automation. Inside the handprint field properties box, there is a drop-down menu with what we like to call field types. It is important that you pick the most accurate field type for what your participant will be writing down. By doing so, you can cut down, if not eliminate, any manual validation you might have had to do. Let's take a moment to go over the different handprint field types. In the left column you can see the type name as it appears inside the drop-down box, and in the right column you can see what processing looks for when it looks at the adjacent type name. First, we have alpha only. During processing, this field would be checked for letters that the participant enters. Numeric only works in the same way, except it is checked for numbers. So the first two are pretty generic, in that each box is read individually, and whatever is read in each box is what is written to the database unless verification is needed. Now, the city type is different, because when it is read during processing, the field is checked for not only what is in each box, but also for the context of each box. What that means is that there is a greater chance that the city name will be read as a city name and not just a set of letters and symbols. The bottom line is that by choosing a type that checks for context, you are increasing the probability that what the participant wrote will automatically be written out in the database without the need of manual validation.
Company name type works in the same way that the city type does,
in that it also checks for context. The next three types are made to collect the date, with each one looking for a different format. All three are made up of 10 spaces, with 2 of these boxes having pre-placed slashes. You have the choice of 3 formats: day/month/year, month/day/year, or year/month/day. Alphanumeric is the alpha and numeric types put together, thus the extremely non-creative name. This field type will read any number or letter or symbol and then write the scanned information to the database as typed text. It is not recommended to use this type often due to the absence of context checking. The decimal type gives you the ability to collect a number with 2 decimal places. By increasing the number of boxes, you can increase the amount of spaces before the decimal, but not after. You can have up to 25 spaces before the decimal, and by default, there will always be 2 spaces after a preset decimal point. Personal name type works a lot like the city name type in that it checks for context. Remember that context means the software, during scanning, checks to see if the combination of letters makes sense for that particular field type. So if you were collecting the personal name of someone, you would want to use the personal name type. The phone number type presets 12 boxes, with 2 of these boxes containing dashes. This gives you room for the area code and the phone number. The social security number type is exactly the same as the phone number type, but has 11 boxes instead of 12. But it still has, of course, the 2 preset dashes in the logical places for a social security number. The state type places 2 places for the acronym of a specific state. The context checking looks for any of the 50 states and also includes the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Now the street address field type has some special context checking, which starts by looking at the structure of the field and how it is filled out, and then it reads the data based on common address formats. So if the address given in the field is West 31st Street, the context checking will look for letters and then numbers and then letters again. Whereas if the written address is 6111 Blue Circle Drive, the context checking will look for numbers followed by letters. The 2 time types have 8 boxes with colons separating every set of 2 boxes. The only difference is that one is looking for a 12-hour time and the other is looking for 24-hour time, otherwise known as military time. If a number is read that is invalid, like a 9 in the very first box or a 2 in the very first box of the 12-hour format, the operator will be prompted for the correct time or to please fill in the correct time during processing. The zip code type is pretty self-explanatory. It places 5 boxes on the form or survey for a standard zip code. The last type in the list is called user-defined type. This type allows you to define what the software should be looking for in each box during processing. In a little bit, I will go over how to actually create a customized set of boxes. But before that, you need to understand how to define each box. So for the customization of the user-defined type, you will type in a string of characters or a line of characters inside a little text box, and each character will tell the software what to look for. So an N would equal a number, an A would equal an alpha character, a letter, an X ignores whatever is written. And any symbol typed, like a slash or a dash, will be preset in that box. So you may be surveying some people that have ID numbers. So you may create a user-defined type like this. We have an A, N, N, dash, A, dash, N, X, N. So when a participant fills out the form, if they fill in the ID field as your user-defined type field, and they fill in A1, 2, the dash is preset, then C, D, preset dash again, 7, blank, 3. That number will work out. But if they would write 7, 1, 2, dash, 6A, dash, 7, blank 3, the operator would be prompted for validation because 7 and 6 are not alpha characters. This will be easier to understand once you actually make your first user-defined type, so do not be discouraged if you do not understand it at this moment. So let's take a bit of time going over how to create a handprint field. I have already created the text elements and provided instructions for the participant on how to fill in the handprint fields correctly. If you do not know how to create the text elements as shown here, there is a tutorial in the AutoData Learning Center that can help you create these. So on this form, we are going to collect the person's name and a person's ID number, both with handprint fields. So to create a handprint field that reads the person's name, we click on the handprint icon in the AutoData toolbar. So the handprint properties box appears, and the first box that we can manipulate is the field name box, which can be left as it is, or you can type in a name so that it is easy to identify your participants' data in the database. So I'm actually going to call this the name field. The field order box is taken care of when we publish the form, so I'm going to just leave that one alone. So now for the field type. I'm going to want to pick the best type that has context checking so that I can have accurate as well as efficient processing. So I am going to scroll down this list and choose the personal name type. I am going to make the number of boxes a 15 because I don't think that anyone's first name is going to be over 15 letters long. Now you see this box labeled confidence. Basically, this determines the confidence level that the processing has to have for this field. So the higher the number, the more verification there will be. You can pick anywhere from 1 to 10 confidence levels. A low number means that the software will guess more on what the letters are supposed to be. There are two field attributes that can be applied to a handprint field, the first being to make it a serial field, and for more information on that, please see the tutorial on serial fields in the AutoData Learning Center. And the second option is to make this field a fixed width when it is written to the database. This means that if boxes are left blank, they will be written as spaces in the database. For this name field, I don't need any of the field attributes checked, so I'm just going to leave this section alone. But I do want to make sure that the correct verify option is checked, as should you when you make a handprint field. I am going to leave it at verify if low confidence, because that option is going to make this form a little bit more automated when it is processed. This means that the operator would only be prompted if the software could not make a proper guess as to what was written inside of the handprint boxes. Verify always means that the operator will always be prompted when processing comes across this particular field, even if the boxes are left blank. And verify if data present means that the operator will always be prompted if and only if something is written inside one of the boxes for this field. So now that I have all of my fields with the correct properties, I am going to click OK, and you see that 15 boxes show up on my form. I am just going to align this next to the name title. I may actually want to change the name to first name, since I am only having 15 boxes. Now that I have finished the first name field, I am going to want to create the field to collect the ID numbers. I'm going to come back up to the handprint field box to open the handprint properties. I'm going to change the field name to ID num because I know that this is an ID number. The field type this time is going to be user-defined type, because I want to define exactly what should be put in each box. You notice that the number of boxes is grayed out, and that's because it's automatically determined by how you set up the user-defined type. So I'm going to click on the user-defined type tab. I will then put in the format of our ID numbers, which is a letter, and then two numbers, a dash, then a number, then two letters, then a dash, and then finally a number. So the A means alpha and the N means numeric, and any symbol that you put in there is going to be preset inside of the boxes. So I'll go back to the General tab just to make sure that everything is in order. I don't see anything else that I need to change, so I click on OK. And there you see it automatically creates it. Also, remember that any symbol you put in there is automatically preset, so that's a very nice thing to help your user figure out exactly what they need to put into the field. This completes the tutorial on creating handprint fields.